Hi everyone, welcome back to Jhood Creative. Just want to take a few minutes to uh, recap on my contest I've got going, show you some books that I pick up and read regularly, and then shout out just a few channels that I've come to like just recently, and want to shout them out. Maybe you'll like them too. So my contest, I kind of buried the lead in video number 2. So my contest is, if you're a YouTube content creator, part of the YouTube content or YouTube comic book community, record a video discussing your 5 favorite comic books. I want to see floppies, and if it's a self-contained graphic novel, that's game. I don't want to see a trade paperback though. I want to see individual stories, individual comic books. So record your favorite 5, and then leave a comment in video number 2 telling me that you've made a video so I can go watch it. If you're not a regular contributor as far as making videos on YouTube, leave a comment in video number 2 telling me your favorite 5, and then maybe a few reasons why. And then I'll have a prize pack for both the video version and the comment version of the contest. So subscribe to my channel, make a video, leave a comment so I know to come look for you. The deadline is November 25th. That's right before Thanksgiving. And then I'll take everyone that's entered, I'll put you into a drawing and pull a winner that way. That way I'm not playing favorites. And so what do you win? You win a Jhood curation. And again, what does that mean? That means for YouTube content creators, I'm going to go to your channels, watch your content, and kind of see if I can understand what you're into, and put together a prize pack just for you, aimed right at you. And part of that prize pack will be hardcovers or trade paperbacks. There will be some individual issues that I think you might like, and then there's going to be a piece of art in it from me. There'll also be some autographs. So what kind of people are we talking about for autographs? I've got Jim Lee, I've got Scott Snyder, I've got Brian Azzarello. I've got big name artists and writers in my collection that I'm willing to put into these prize packs. So you're going to get some good stuff. And then as far as the artwork you'll get from me, for the YouTube version of the rewards, you're going to get a sketch cover. Again, based on your content, what I think you might like, and it could be, something like this. It could be a head, it could be, waist up, it could be a full action pose, it could have a background. It all depends on what you like, what I'm inspired to do, and what I can flesh out on a cover. That'll be a black and white piece. Now, for the comment version of the awards, I've been doing little paintings on these little cards. If you go to Comic Ed 84's channel, you'll see an unboxing of AOK I sent him where I did one of these on a Batman painting. So this is going to be a full color, not just a pencil sketch. It's going to be a full color painting. It's just little. So subscribe. Tell me your 5 favorites, either via a video or comments. If you do a video, let me know. November 25th is deadline, and then we'll have a drawing for the prize pack I just described. So what have I been reading? I said in my first video that I don't go to the store often, and I'm definitely not a weekly buyer. But I do buy, I have a pull and I buy regular comics. So I'm just going to give you a rundown of those just so you can see kind of what I'm into. So the first book, Batman, Curse of the White Knight. I really loved the first White Knight series that Sean Murphy did. The first couple issues of this have been kind of slow, and I've heard other people say the same thing. So I'm looking forward to getting into issue 3 here. All Jonathan Hickman's X-Men stuff. I've been dying for new, good X-Men stuff. I would love great X-Men stuff. This is satisfying enough for me. I have a pretty high bar. I liked about I really loved, I should say, I loved half of this, and the other half I was just like, I'll put up with it, I guess. I like the interesting stuff he's doing with Myra. I love the X-Men taking on the Mother mold. Uh, the thing I'm not quite liking about this is familiar territory that I think Hickman has covered before, which is this idea of an untenable utopia. Uh, they they, for all intents and purposes, tried to set up a utopia here. We know it's going to fall apart, so the story will be, how does that happen? Um, I think we've seen this before in AVX when the Phoenix Force, took over some of the X-Men and they created a utopia on Earth. And then Hickman did it again in his Avengers run, where he had these kind of big godlike beings come and kind of set up a utopia on Earth. So to me, it's familiar territory for him. I would like to see a slightly different approach, but still, I'm on board. I'll buy his X-Men book. I'm buying the New Mutants and a couple of the other uh, new titles that are coming out. The one thing I'm curious to see is on the first issue of Wolverine, on the cover, we see a dead body. Uh, you can't kill a mutant. They're going to come back. And it's against the mutant law to kill a human, so it'll be interesting to see if Wolverine can keep his body count down. Asked my LCS to snag a copy of this. I'm a huge X-Men fan. Go back, years and years. I wasn't a big fan of the Sienkiewicz New Mutants run as a kid. It was over my head art-wise. Now I can appreciate it, and this is a good throwback story. I'm not thrilled with this particular cover, but I think it's a case of that's what the LCS had when I kind of called in and told them to pull a copy for me. The new Black Widow series. The first issue was solid. I need to read this one. Black Widow series have been pretty solid as far as I'm concerned. This is kind of old, but I wanted to show it because it's my favorite ongoing title. Um, Contrary to what I might have said in my Joker video, I don't like dark superhero stories. It doesn't mean I don't like dark stories now and then. This is very much I've got Pulp Fiction poster hanging over there. This is very much a Pulp Fiction style story. If you are into that kind of thing, track down the 100+ issues. This is series number 3 of Stray Bullets. Great stuff. It's all very kind of gritty crime stuff, stories told out of order, and some oddball stories thrown in just to make you kind of process it and think. By Criminal. I loved the earlier Criminal series that Brubaker and Phillips did. I'm not as thrilled with this one, and I'm not sure why. A little bit of it has to do with the coloring, that they've got a new colorist involved that doesn't do kind of the same things as the old one did. I also think that Sean Phillips, as I see it, as an artist, I recognize that, and it's happened to me too, that you kind of fall into not ruts but patterns when you're drawing things. So if you draw an eye, it's going to look the same over and over again. If you draw a face, you're going to draw the same face, different hair. And I think Sean Phillips is getting into that a little bit in this. Another book I've been picking up is The Ride. Again, fan of earlier books. This series is okay. This is number 4 of 5, so I'll finish it out. It's okay. I'm not real gung ho about it. Doomsday Clock. Story's been okay. It's been intriguing, but I mean, we're at issue 11 and we've got one issue left to get a payoff. The art in it has been spectacular. Don't get to the shop regularly, so I had to pick up these two on my latest trip there. I've always been a Legion of Superheroes fan. Not as big a fan in the last 5-10 years. Of course, they haven't published much Legion-wise, but this looked interesting. They've got a lot of interesting artists and writers involved, so I'm checking that out to see what the future holds for the future of the DC Universe. Picked up Harleen. I passed on the Joker Harley series because the art seemed stiff, even though it was fully painted just like this. When it comes to fully painted art, as an artist, I see the difference between real hand painting and digital hand painting. I'm not saying that digital painting doesn't have a place, but if it's not done really well, I get real nitpicky about it. This is done well enough to satisfy me. Um, I'm not thrilled with the kind of the pretty boy take on the Joker, uh, but the full issue, I had to read through the full issue to decide if I'm going to buy the rest, and I'll buy the second issue. I just have to, in my mind, put a more mean, gruesome face on the Joker. Uh, I'm a late adopter on some things. I bought the first issue of Die, or fifth print or something like that, several months ago. I liked it well enough, didn't jump on board. I was able to pick up pretty much the whole run from Bake the Snake. So got that, picked this up, and well, I have some catching up to do. Also a late adopter on these two series, Once and Future. Got the first two issues. I put it on my poll. I like the art better than the story so far. The story's okay. The art's really nice, but I imagine it's a mini series, so I'll probably pick it up and take it through the whole way. And then Something's Killing the Children. I wasn't thrilled about the idea of children being killed, and I also wasn't real thrilled about, as I glanced through it, this seeing mutilated kids. I have to say this cover went a long way to get me on board with the series. I think that this character design is really killer, and I'll keep on it for a few issues and see how it goes. Those are all my kind of current reads. I picked up a couple of hole fillers at a relatively new store, new to me. He's on the other side of town. But these have been on my hunt list for a while. For some reason, either I bought and lost this issue of New Avengers, and I never had issue 23 of Nightwing, but these complete my runs of Nightwing and the Bendis New Avengers, the first New Avengers run. I'd bought most of them off the shelf back in the day. I long to find new comics that I love to buy new, right? So that's why I'm getting on board with Once and Future and Die and those things. See if they really do kind of grab a hold of me and give me something to look forward to read monthly. So, but when there's not a lot of that, I go back and read stuff I've got. So I went back and I've started rereading Cosmic Odyssey, which is by Jim Starlin and Mike Mignola, and it's solid stuff. This book, it involves the New Gods and a kind of a version of the Justice League, but they pull in characters like Starfire, and this was published in the late 80s, I believe, and instead of Hal Jordan, they had John Stewart as their selection for the Green Lantern in the book. And then, of course, it deals with New Gods. So this is the book that kind of set the standard for me for as far as New Gods going forward. So whether I go back and read the old Kirby stuff or the new, more recent Mr. Miracle series, which I love both of those, but I always kind of come back and compare it to this Jim Starlin written story. So this kind of set the bar for me as far as New Gods go. By the way, the only thing I would fault in this is Superman's dialogue in the first issue is kind of quirky. He says things he would normally say, but the Batman story part is written really well. And then along the lines of having John Stewart involved, issue 2, there's a big turning point for John Stewart. So if you're not familiar with this and you're a Green Lantern fan, I definitely encourage you to pick up this series, either think of the back issues are a trade. Uh, Reread this one last night. Excellent story. Of course, they did a cartoon version of it. They did an episode for being Bruce Timm art. It's okay. He didn't put enough of himself into this to kind of separate this from what you saw published in the regular Batman Adventures comic at the time. So it's not, the interior art isn't as special as what I would say the cover is. I wish we'd gotten more out of them that way, but still, a super, super solid book. And then been rereading The Killing Joke, and this kind of came out of the video I posted about the new Joker movie and why I didn't necessarily want to go see that, but I liked this book. And I've hooked up with Comic Books NYC and JP Collects, and they do a series called Gotham City Chronicles. I said, hey guys, have you considered reviewing this book? And they said, it's always kind of been a possibility, but not something they were considering. And I said, well, if you do, let me know. And they thought that since it was kind of relevant with the Joker movie coming out, they would do an episode. So I'll be on with those guys. And depending on when I publish this episode, I'll put a link in the description, or I'll go back after the fact and put a link into the description about our discussion we have on that. So that's pretty much everything that I've been buying and reading lately. I want to shout out 2 new channels to me. They're new to me. One of them happens to be pretty new, and one of them happens to have been around for a long time. I just didn't know about them. So the first one I want to mention was suggested by everybody's favorite Biggie Shack. He said, I think you're going to like this channel. Go check him out. It's called Cartoonist K-Fab. And it's with Jim Rugg and Ed Piskor, and they're both established comic book artists in the industry. And they're going back and they're doing things that I want to do, things I had hoped to do on my channel, but they're doing it way better than I am, or what I hope to do. So what they're doing things like going back and looking at just kind of historically looking at the work of Jack Kirby, or even doing things as maybe silly as opening up an issue of Wizard magazine and just flip through it page by page and just talk about it, what was going on at the time, and maybe they even dig deeper, like if something kind of odd or relatively obscure is talked about in the article, they go hunt it down and they bring it to their discussion, and they kind of flesh it out a little bit more. So if you're into maybe learning about comics and the history and maybe some of the backstory, not necessarily the comics or the stories between the pages, I would definitely check out Comic Book K-Fab. And thanks, Biggie, again, for pointing that my way. And then the other one is also a recommendation from another YouTuber, coming from Rod the Rican, who, as Jester Rican, does his weekly shout-out show. And he shouted out a show called Jerk Comics, which is an odd name because the guy on the channel doesn't seem like a jerk at all. But he just has all this knowledge of comic book history, and he just comes on for 5 to 10 minutes and tells you a story that you probably didn't know about something happening in the background as far as the history of comics goes. He did one video on the fact that it seems like John Byrne quit the X-Men over 3 panels, which is kind of surprising. I think I might have heard a little bit of that story before, but he really kind of fleshes it out. He goes into a feud between Carl Barks and Don Rosa, which I never knew there was a feud between those two. And he really gets into what happened there and that kind of thing, and talks about both those artists in their place in the history of comics, and the fact that people, especially in America, don't necessarily recognize how great their work on Uncle Scrooge and the Disney comics was. It's very, amongst artists that really cherish the art form and what it can do, they're very well respected, but because they're cartoon books, they don't get a lot of attention from the mainstream. So uh, the name of the channel is Jerk Comics, and I just want to shout him out. And he's only got, like, I think he's got less than 60 subscribers, but he's got dozens of episodes. So please go check him out. They're 5 to 10 minutes long. They're little nuggets of goodness. Just go take a look. So that's going to be it for this one. And I just want to say, again, thanks for your support. Thanks for stopping by. And remember, faith, family, comic books, and we'll see you next time.